Pete Wedderburn. I've just finished doing the vet spots on the Pat Kenny show on Newstalk, and now I'm going to answer some of the questions that we didn't get a chance to get to on air. As well as that, if you've got any questions at all about your pets, please type them into the comment section below and I'll get to them in due course. Okay, so the first question.
Okay, so the first one comes in from Leanne. So she wants to know how often you should get your dog vaccinated for parvo.
Yeah, I mentioned on air that with this new disease that's happening in Norway, and we're not sure what the cause of it is, one of the recommendations is that people make sure their pets are vaccinated up to date. So what is the story with parvovirus? Well, parvovirus is a really horrible disease. It's a virus that attacks the lining of the stomach and intestines, and essentially it causes massive bleeding from the digestive tract, and that carries on despite treatment, and as well as that, the dog's immune system is completely suppressed. So a very high percentage of dogs with parvovirus die, and that's why it's so important to vaccinate dogs against it. So what is the recommended regime? Well, that's changed a little bit over the years. Recommendations have changed. What it is now is this, that all puppies should be vaccinated against parvovirus, and they generally need 2 injections, one usually given between 8 and 10 weeks, and a second one usually given at 12 weeks. So that's just given to every puppy. Now, there are some breeds of dog, for example, Rottweilers, that seem to have a little bit of resistance to the vaccination. So sometimes they'll be given an extra dose of vaccination at around 15 or 16 weeks of age. So once the puppy vaccinations have been given, what you then have to do is a year later, so when the dog's about 15 months of age, they need a booster vaccination. And what that does is that picks up the dogs that perhaps didn't react well to the puppy vaccination of some kind. And so if you give a vaccination at 15 months of age, that then gives quite long-lasting protection, which will usually last for something like 3 to 4 years, arguably possibly even longer. So after that, throughout the dog's life, it's recommended that you give a booster vaccination from time to time. Every 3 to 4 years is probably okay. And if you are concerned, you can get a blood test done at any time to get so-called serology done. And that measures the antibodies in your dog's blood against parvovirus. And that tells you whether or not a top-up vaccination is needed. But listen, having said all of that, I'd also be saying to you that the right answer does depend on your individual dog. That applies to all vaccines. And so the important thing for you to do is to talk to your vet. Talk to your local vet and ask them what they recommend and go with their recommendation, because the recommendations do vary from area to area to some extent, and they vary from vaccine brand to vaccine brand. Every vaccine that's used has a data sheet that goes with it that recommends how it should be used, and it's important that data sheet is followed. So this is one to engage with your vet about. Okay?
Okay, so the next one comes in from Rona. So would appreciate your opinion on getting a toy poodle as a family pet, or any kind of small dog for a family.
Okay, I don't know if you saw me on Claiborne Live on Monday night there. We were talking about designer dogs and about the problem with puppy farmers. So the first thing I'd say to you is be very cautious here, because in your desire to have a little white fluffy dog, you could accidentally buy from a puppy farmer, and you could accidentally encourage the trade in puppy farmed designer dogs, which basically is an industry which ends up with the dogs losing. So first thing I'd say to you is reconsider and think about getting a rescue dog. People sometimes think a rescue dog is in some way, I don't know, like a rejected dog that's got problems or something like that, but that is absolutely not the truth. There's loads and loads of absolutely lovely, good-natured, healthy dogs that are in rescue centres around the country that need homes. And if you want a small white fluffy dog, you're probably going to find one of those in a rescue centre. There's no need for you to go to some unknown person and spend 400 or 800 quid on buying some exotic looking puppy. Not necessary. You can do a much better job by going to a rescue centre. Now, having said all that, I know that when I say that to people, they often still have their heart set on getting the little white fluffy pedigree dog that they originally wanted. Their heart is set on that. So if you're absolutely determined to do that, then you should go to a website called IPAG. That's IPAAG.ie. IPAG. That's the it's a group that's got together to give advice on how to avoid buying from a puppy farmer. And so the IPAG website has a checklist for you to use. You can read down the different bullet points that make recommendations as to what you should check for to make sure you're buying from a good breeder. There are good breeders out there. There are people who have white fluffy dogs and they breed their 1 or 2 white fluffy dogs and produce puppies that are really well socialized and will make great pets. There are people out there doing that, but there's also plenty of puppy farmers who masquerade as lovely family dog breeders, and it's very easy to be fooled by them. So go to ipag.ie and learn about how to avoid doing that.
Okay, so we have room for one more question today. So this comes from David. So my dog is 17. She seems to be deaf and losing her vision and has gone a bit senile. She still eats, etc., but I'm wondering, should I put her down?
That's a very difficult question to answer. I mean, appetite is important, and I often think that the day a very elderly dog stops eating and loses interest in food, that's definitely a day when euthanasia is often the right choice. But what about if a dog is having a miserable life but they still manage to eat? Then what do you do? Well, it's difficult, and I think what you need to do is an overall review of your dog's quality of life. What I tend to do is write up 2 columns on a bit of paper. On the left-hand side, write down all the things your dog used to love doing. Then the right-hand side, write down the things that they can still do. And if they're doing very, very little of the things that they used to enjoy doing, I think there's a strong argument that quality of life has slipped enough that it's time to let them go. I also think that it's really important you engage with your vet, because your vet will know you and they'll know your dog, and they're very objective. That it's difficult for you because you're emotionally very involved. This dog's been part of your life for 17 years. It's like a brother or a sister or a child, and the thought of saying goodbye to them, the thought of choosing to end their life is just about impossible. So your vet will help give you an objective view, so they'll look at it dispassionately, and be able to give you advice as to whether you're doing the right thing. It's really, really important that we don't let animals suffer at the end of their lives. We don't need to let them suffer. We have the option of making it easy for them. Euthanasia means good death. And if your dog's quality of life has slipped so that they're no longer happy, then the best thing for them is a good death. So sad as that is. Okay, I have to go now, guys. I'll see you again the next time.